AccuWeather was there every step of the way, delivering life-saving forecasts and guidance. Now, a new independent study confirms it. Kantar, a global leader in data and analytics, reviewed hurricane forecasts from 2024 and it found that AccuWeather led the way in accuracy, communication, and advanced notice. It's called the AccuWeather Advantage. You can only get that here on the AccuWeather Network, AccuWeather.com, and the AccuWeather app, which is a free download. Now, joining us further to talk about this groundbreaking information here on the accuracy of our 2024 hurricane forecast, we have Chief Meteorologist Jon Porter. You know, John, it's a big statement to make. Obviously, when you make a statement like we just made, you have to have some proof to back it up, and we have the numbers.
We do, and it's, as you mentioned, Bernie, this is a significant study because it's the first time to our knowledge that any source has been confirmed to have a more accurate forecast than the National Hurricane Center, and AccuWeather experts provide that forecast to people and businesses to help them stay safer and be better informed. And all the stats that we have, as validated by Kantar, prove that. And you could see here the numbers. Here's the proof behind that statement. Look at the track and intensity accuracy advantage that AccuWeather provided compared to the National Hurricane Center and all other sources, which, by the way, Kantar verified that all other publicly available sources, or other weather sources, are using the National Hurricane Center forecast. And you can see that we had a 6.2% more accurate track forecast, a 4.0% more accurate intensity forecast, and that advantage grew on the landfalling storms. The track, we were 8.9% more accurate and 4.4% more accurate on the intensity of storms. And look at that important landfall location and intensity parameter, because that oftentimes defines where the greatest impacts are, where the storm makes landfall. AccuWeather provided a more accurate forecast of landfall location by 8.6% and 37.8% more accurate landfall intensity forecast compared to the Hurricane Center and all other sources.
And it's also about the advance notice. We cannot express how important it is to give people advance notice. And as you go through these numbers, John, I want to remind everybody, it's not just one individual statistic that we went over. When you average them or combine them all together, the advantage becomes even greater.
That's right, Bernie, and that's an important point. This study by Kantar looked at the entire season. It looked at every forecast AccuWeather hurricane experts made it. It compared it with the then valid National Hurricane Center forecast to provide these comparisons, and all the data we're showing are on average, averaged over all those forecasts. And you can see that on average, AccuWeather experts exclusively provided a first forecast, track and intensity forecast for hurricanes and tropical storms 19 hours before the National Hurricane Center and other sources. Imagine that, getting advance notice from AccuWeather 19 hours earlier. That enables you to make better plans and stay safer. And of course, our forecast extended on average 25 hours further into the future beyond the forecast of the National Hurricane Center and other sources. And I want to point out, too, that the National Hurricane Center is an indispensable part of this work. We utilize all the forecast models and data that the National Hurricane Center provides. Their important work provides the foundation that's used by AccuWeather and the entire weather enterprise here in the United States. Our job is to look at what the National Hurricane Center is putting out, consider it, and then our experts look at ways to improve the forecast. And that's what's proven in this forecast.
You know, the only long track storm we had last year, and what do I mean by that, is a storm that started in the Atlantic, the tropical Atlantic, and made its way toward the United States, was Beryl. And what a storm that was. We'll get to that in a second. But John, some other key points about the accuracy of our hurricane forecasts.
Well, Kantar validated that AccuWeather experts exclusively provided the first forecast for Beryl 28 hours in advance of the National Hurricane Center and other sources. And that was critical to provide life-saving advance notice to the islands in the Caribbean that we're going to be dealing with what became a Category 5 hurricane. AccuWeather was also the first to predict that the storm would make landfall in Texas 30 hours before the National Hurricane Center and other sources. Also the first to forecast 8 to 12 inches of rain and flooding before any other source. And of course, that was a big problem, flooding not only at the coast but inland in that storm. and more advance notice on the location of the storm, 41 hours in advance on the track of that storm.
Yeah, and then of course we had Hurricane Helene, and the cleanup still continues from this life-changing storm.
And there again, we provided key wording to help people make the best decisions. AccuWeather was the only source to call Helene a once-in-a-generation storm and to predict a catastrophic flooding disaster right where it happened in the mountains in the western part of the southern Appalachians in western North Carolina, eastern Tennessee, a devastating storm. And we provided, by the numbers, more accuracy on the landfall location and, of course, the wind intensity at landfall, but also better described those significant impacts.
One of the more powerful hurricanes, of course, was Hurricane Milton, where we provided weeks in advance notice that this storm was going to form and move into the Gulf of Mexico.
We made no mistake about that. Other sources, including the National Hurricane Center and other weather sources, were flip-flopping on whether there was going to be any development of a tropical storm and eventually hurricane. AccuWeather consistently called for a tropical storm and hurricane to develop, and of course that's exactly what happened. We were first to forecast that. We also warned of the damaging winds and flooding in Florida before any other source, and we provided on average 22 forecasts that extended 22 hours further in the future as compared to the government and all other sources on Milton, a devastating storm across the southeastern United States.
And of course, Jon, you can have the most accurate forecast in the world, but you have to communicate it properly, and you have to make sure that the people can get the forecast many different ways.
That's correct, and that's a key part of it. The Kantar study also validated AccuWeather's real impact scale for hurricanes as a better measure and a more comprehensive representation of a tropical storm or hurricane's impacts. You can get these advantages exclusively from AccuWeather in terms of, on average, greater advance notice, greater accuracy across all of the AccuWeather platforms. So important as we head into hurricane season in order to make the best decisions for your family, keep them safer, better prepared, also for your business. With the AccuWeather app, the AccuWeather network, and of course our AccuWeather for Business services, where we provide site-specific forecasts and warnings through the AccuWeather Hurricane Warning Service for businesses so they can operate safer and be best prepared. All of this is powered by AccuWeather's proven superior accuracy, and we're here for you every step of the storm, well before it develops, as the storm has developed, and we're informing you where it's heading, and of course during and after the impacts as well.